The cruise liner Harmony's Dream glided through the void of space like a silver fish through dark water. Its hull gleamed under distant starlight as it approached the human colony world of New Sol. Inside the bridge, Captain Velmuth watched the planet grow larger on his screens. His compound eyes reflected the blue and green world below, and his antenna twitched with nervousness. "Another human world," he muttered to his first officer. "I still don't understand why they choose such dangerous planets to live on." Dran, the crystalline luminary who served as first officer, hummed softly. His body caught the bridge lights and scattered them into rainbow patterns. "The reports say this world has predators that weigh several tons, and storms that can flatten cities. Yet humans build homes there and call it paradise." Insanity. Velmuth clicked his mandibles together. Pure insanity. The docking procedure went smoothly. New Sol's orbital station was clean and efficient, built with typical human precision. Several passengers boarded for the journey to Central Hub, the massive space station that served as the galaxy's cultural crossroads. Among them was a girl who caught everyone's attention simply because she looked so harmless. Gu stepped onto the ship with a small bag slung over her shoulder. She wore a dark blue school uniform with a white collar and a pleated skirt that fell just below her knees. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tiny compared to most of the other passengers, barely reaching the chest height of the average Quilarian crew member, the boarding officer. A young Quilarian named Pix smiled at her with what he thought was a reassuring expression. "Welcome aboard, young one. Traveling with family?" "No, sir," Jiwoo replied politely. "Just me. I'm enrolled at Central Hub University." "Engineering program." Pix glanced at his datapad. The manifest listed her as 18 standard years old, but that had to be wrong. She looked like a child. "I see. Well, we've placed you on Deck 7 with the other families. You'll be safe there." Something flickered in Jiwoo's dark eyes, but she just nodded and smiled. "Thank you." She walked through the ship's corridors. Other passengers and crew members watched her pass. A seraph mother pulled her children closer as if the small human might be frightened by their feathered appearance. A Soros merchant chuckled and whispered to his companion about how weak humans looked. Gi Woo heard it all, but kept walking, her face pleasant and neutral. Her quarters were small, but comfortable. She unpacked her belongings methodically, hanging up 3 identical school uniforms, placing her datapads on the desk, and tucking a small photo frame beside her bed. The photo showed her standing among a group of soldiers, all wearing combat gear and carrying weapons. In the picture, her smile was different, harder, more knowing. The first few days passed quietly. Jiwoo attended meals in the common dining area, where she ate alone at a small table. She studied her engineering texts and occasionally looked out the viewing ports at the stars streaming past. The crew treated her like a child, offering her extra desserts and speaking to her in simple, slow language, as if she might not understand Galactic Standard very well. On the 3rd day, an alarm sounded in the cargo bay. Nothing serious, just a power fluctuation that caused some of the magnetic clamps to release. Several containers had shifted, creating a dangerous mess that needed to be secured before the next jump to faster-than-light speed. Gu, out, was walking past when she saw crew members rushing toward the bay. She followed and watched as they assessed the situation. Heavy containers, each weighing several hundred kilograms, had tumbled across the floor. The crew was debating how to move them safely. "Oh, I can help," Jiwoo offered, stepping forward. The cargo master, a broad luminary named Kex, shook his crystalline head. No, little one. This is dangerous work. These containers are very heavy. You might get hurt." "I'm stronger than I look," Jiwoo said quietly. Kex laughed, not unkindly. "I'm sure you are, but please, let the professionals handle this. Why don't you go back to your studies?" Gi-woo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but she nodded and left. As she walked away, she heard one of the crew members say, "Poor thing probably wanted to feel useful. Humans are so fragile, though. Best to keep her safe." That evening in the dining hall, Jiwoo sat with her meal when a large shadow fell across her table. She looked up to see Dex, the Soros merchant she'd noticed before. He was massive, easily 2.5 meters tall, with scales that gleamed like polished green armor and eyes like yellow glass. "This seat taken, little human?" he asked, his voice a rumbling growl. "No," Jiwoo said simply. Dex sat down heavily, making the bench creak. "You're traveling alone. That's dangerous for someone so small and weak. I'll be fine. Will you?" Dex leaned closer. His breath smelled like sulfur. Space is dangerous. Pirates, raiders, all sorts of bad things. A little thing like you needs protection. Jiwoo set down her fork carefully. "I appreciate your concern, but I don't need protection." Vex's laugh was harsh and mocking. "You don't even know how weak you are. Humans always think they're tougher than they are. Your kind is new to the galaxy. You don't understand how things work out here." Other passengers were watching now, but no one intervened. Confrontations with Vex rarely ended well, and most beings avoided him. "I understand more than you think," Jiwoo said. Her voice remained calm, but something in her tone made Dex pause. He stared at her for a long moment, then snorted. "We'll see how tough you are if trouble finds this ship." He stood up and walked away, leaving Jiwoo alone again. Later that night, in her quarters, Jiwoo changed out of her school uniform. Underneath, her arms showed faint scars, thin white lines that spoke of training and combat. She dropped to the floor and began a workout routine that would have impressed any soldier in the galaxy. Push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, all performed with perfect form and relentless intensity. After an hour, she barely showed signs of fatigue. She stood, stretched, and looked at the photo beside her bed. The soldiers in the picture had been her unit during mandatory service. 2 years on the frontier, defending human colonies from pirates and hostile fauna. 2 years that had taught her exactly what she was capable of. She changed into sleep clothes and lay down. But her mind remained alert. Something felt wrong. The way Vex had spoken, the way he'd been watching the ship's security measures, it all suggested he knew something. Jiwoo had learned to trust her instincts. Before sleeping, she did one final thing. She pulled up the ship's public directory and made note of every human aboard. 12 total, including herself. If trouble came, she wanted to know who might be useful. Outside her window, the stars continued their endless dance, and the Harmony's dream sailed on through the dark, carrying its passengers toward their destinations. Unaware that the small schoolgirl in cabin 7B was perhaps the most dangerous being aboard, the attack came without warning on the 6th day of the journey. Jiwoo was in the common area, reading a textbook on quantum engineering, when the ship suddenly shuddered. The lights flickered and died, replaced by emergency red lighting that painted everything in blood-colored shadows. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Passengers started shouting in a dozen different languages, their panic filling the air like smoke. Jiwoo closed her book calmly and stood up, her eyes scanning the room with the practiced efficiency of someone trained for emergencies. "Everyone stay calm," a crew member announced over the intercom, but his voice shook with fear. "We are experiencing a security situation. Please proceed to the main atrium for your safety." Gu joined the flow of frightened passengers moving through the corridors. She noticed things others missed. The way the ship shuddered suggested multiple impact points. The pattern of the alarm meant hull breaches. Someone had boarded them, and they'd done it fast and professionally. The main atrium was a large circular space with a domed ceiling that usually showed the stars outside. Now blast shields covered the transparent panels, turning the room into a prison. Hundreds of passengers crowded together, all species mixing in their shared terror. Parents held children. The elderly leaned on the young. Everyone waited. They didn't wait long. The main doors exploded inward with a blast that threw nearby passengers to the ground. Through the smoke came figures in black armor, carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. They moved like wolves entering a sheepfold, confident and cruel. Behind them came their leader. Kroll was a nightmare made flesh. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, with forearms ending in clawed hands and a head like a hammer covered in bony plates. His species came from a world with 3 times standard gravity, and it showed in every muscle of his massive frame. Scars covered his armor like trophies. "Good morning, passengers." Krull's voice boomed across the atrium. "My name is Krull, and this ship now belongs to me. Cooperate, and most of you will survive to be ransomed. Resist, and I'll space you all and salvage the ship." His pirates spread through the crowd, separating passengers into groups. The wealthy and important in one area, everyone else in another. They worked with the efficiency of long practice. G-Wu ended up in the larger group, pressed between a Quillarian family and an elderly human woman. The old woman looked at Ji-Wu with sharp eyes that seemed to see more than others. "You're military," the woman whispered in human language. "I can tell by how you stand." Gu glanced at her. "Was finished my service 3 months ago. I'm Yuna. 30 years, special operations, retired 5 years ago." The old woman smiled grimly. "We're in trouble, aren't we?" "Yes," Gu said simply. Krull was walking through the prisoners now, selecting people at random. He grabbed a wealthy luminary merchant and examined the being's expensive jewelry. "Good, good. Your family will pay nicely." We shoved the merchant toward a separate pen his pirates had erected. A Quillarian child started crying, the sound high and piercing. One of the pirates, a scarred creature with too many teeth, raised his weapon. "Shut that thing up or I will." The child's mother tried to quiet the young one, but fear made the crying worse. The pirate's finger moved toward the trigger. Ji-Wu stepped forward. "Leave the kid alone." The atrium went silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the small human girl in the school uniform, confronting an armed pirate. The pirate stared at her, then started laughing. "Did the little human just give me an order?" He called out to his companions. "Did you all hear that?" Krull turned, his massive form swiveling toward Ji-Wu. He walked over slowly, each step making the deck plates shake. He stopped in front of her, so tall she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "You're a brave little thing," Krull said, "or very stupid. Which is it?" "Neither," Ji-Wu replied. Her voice was steady, showing no fear. "I just don't like bullies." Krull's laugh was like rocks grinding together. "A hero. Look, everyone, we have a hero." He leaned down, bringing his massive head close to hers. "Do you know what I do to heroes, little girl? Probably the same thing you do to everyone else who stands up to you," Ji-Wu said. "You try to make them afraid." Something dangerous flickered in Krull's eyes. "It's not trying if it works." He straightened up and addressed the crowd. "This human child thinks she's brave. Let's test that. I challenge her to single combat. If she can land 1 blow on me, just 1, I'll release 10 prisoners of her choosing." The crowd gasped. It was madness. Krull was famous across the sector for never losing a fight. He'd killed opponents twice his size. "And if I lose?" Ji-Wu asked. "Then I execute you in front of everyone as a lesson about the price of defiance." Krull spread his forearms wide. "Do you accept, little hero?" Captain Velmuth pushed forward from the crowd. "Please, this is unnecessary. She's just a child." "She didn't mean any offense," except Ji-Wu said clearly. Yuna grabbed her arm. "Girl, don't do this. He'll kill you." Gu looked at the old woman and smiled slightly. "Maybe, but that kid stops crying when Hope walks into the room." She turned back to Krull. "Just 1 blow? That's all I need to land." "Just 1, Quell confirmed. My pirates will clear a space. Let's give our audience a good show." The pirates pushed prisoners back, creating a circle about 10 meters across. Krull stepped into the center, rolling his foreshoulders and cracking his knuckles. The sound was like breaking wood. Ju walked to the opposite side of the circle. She removed her school blazer carefully, folding it and handing it to Yuna. Underneath, she wore just a white shirt with short sleeves. Her arms were lean and marked with those faint scars. She rolled up her sleeves slowly, methodically. Then she pulled off her school shoes and stood in bare feet, feeling the deck plates beneath her. She rolled her neck, loosening muscles, and her entire demeanor changed. The polite schoolgirl disappeared. What remained was something colder, more focused. Last chance to run away, little human, Kroll taunted. I promise to make it quick. Gi-Woo settled into a fighting stance, her weight balanced perfectly, her hands loose and ready. Just one blow, she said quietly. I'll make it count. The watching crowd held its breath. Even the pirates leaned forward, eager to see their leader crush this foolish human child. Kroll charged. He was incredibly fast for his size, covering the distance in 2 massive strides, all 4 arms reaching to grab and crush. Most beings would have frozen in terror. Gi-Woo moved. She didn't try to block or dodge completely. Instead, she stepped inside his reach, using his own momentum against him. Her hand struck his leading elbow, hyperextending the joint with a crack that echoed through the atrium. Kroll roared in pain and surprise, but Gi-Woo wasn't done. She used his forward momentum to spin around his massive body, her small size suddenly an advantage. Her foot lashed out in a devastating kick that targeted the side of his knee. The one joint that couldn't handle lateral force regardless of how strong the being was. The sound was terrible. Kroll's leg bent in a way legs weren't meant to bend. The massive pirate leader crashed to the deck, howling in pain and rage. The entire sequence took less than 5 seconds. Gi-Woo stepped back, breathing normally, not even winded. She looked down at Kroll, who was clutching his ruined knee and dislocated arm. That's to blows, she said calmly. I only needed one. The atrium erupted in chaos. For a moment, nobody moved. The pirates stared at their fallen leader in shock. The passengers stared at Gi-Woo in disbelief. Even Gi-Woo seemed surprised at how quickly it had ended. Then Kroll screamed in rage. Kill her! He roared from the floor, spittle flying from his mouth. Kill her now. The nearest pirate raised his weapon, but Kroll wasn't done. Despite his injuries, the massive being lunged at Gi-Woo with his 2 good arms, fury overriding pain. From his belt, he drew a plasma blade that ignited with a hiss of superheated air. The crowd screamed and scrambled back. This was no longer a challenge. This was an execution. Gi-Woo's expression didn't change. She watched Kroll come at her, the plasma blade leaving trails of light in the air. At the last possible second, she moved again, and this time, there was nothing held back in her movements. She was fast. Faster than anything the aliens had ever seen something her size move. She ducked under his wild slash, rolled across the deck, and came up inside his guard once more. Her hand struck his wrist with surgical precision, and the blade clattered away across the floor. Before Kroll could react, Gi-Woo grabbed the fallen blade. She spun and pressed it against his throat, the superheated edge just millimeters from his scales. Stop, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Everyone stop, or he dies. The pirates froze. Their leader was on his knees, held hostage by a girl who barely reached his chest. Goose's eyes swept across the armed pirates. Drop your weapons and leave this ship. Now your leader lives if you go. He dies if you stay. Don't listen to her. Kroll snarled. She's bluffing. She's just a Gi-Woo pressed the blade closer. A thin line of smoke rose where it touched his scales. I'm a human from a Deathworld. I've killed things bigger and meaner than you. This isn't a bluff. One of the pirates, a lean creature with multiple eyes, stepped forward. This was Dax Kroll's second in command. You're serious, he said. It wasn't a question. Completely, Gi-Woo replied. Dax studied her for a long moment. He'd heard stories about humans, dismissed most of them as exaggeration. But he'd never seen anyone move like this girl had moved. He'd never seen Kroll, who'd won over 100 death matches, beaten in seconds. We leave, Dax said finally. Lower your weapons, he ordered his crew. Dax, you coward, Kroll roared. I'll kill you for this. You'll heal, Dax said flatly. Dead is permanent. He gestured to his crew. Grab him and let's go. 2 pirates moved forward carefully. Gi-Woo stepped back, keeping the plasma blade ready. They picked up Kroll, who continued to curse and threaten, and began dragging him toward the exit. Wait, Gi-Woo said. The 10 prisoners. He promised to release 10. Dax actually laughed at that, a harsh sound. You're really going to hold us to that? A deal is a deal. Fine. 10 prisoners. Dax pointed at random beings in the crowd. You, and 7 others. Lucky you. The human girl bought your freedom. The selected prisoners scrambled away from the pirate groups. The Quilarian child who'd been crying ran to his mother, who was among those chosen. The pirates left slowly, backing toward their breached entry point, weapons still ready. Dax was the last to go. He paused at the door and looked back at Ji-Woo. What's your name, human? Ji-Woo. Ji-Woo, Dax repeated. I'll remember it. And I'll tell everyone I meet about the human schoolgirl who broke cruel. Thank you for the lesson. Then they were gone. Emergency systems sealed the breach behind them. The sound of their ships detaching echoed through the hole. For several heartbeats, the atrium remained silent. Then Captain Velmuth rushed forward, his antenna quivering. Is everyone all right? Is anyone hurt? People began checking themselves and each other. Miraculously, besides some bruises and shock, the passengers were unharmed. The pirates had been after ransom, not blood. They'd left too quickly to do real damage. But all eyes kept returning to Ji-Woo. She stood in the center of the circle, still holding the plasma blade, her white shirt unmarked, her breathing steady. She looked exactly like she had before the fight, except now everyone saw her differently. What are you? Captain Velmuth whispered, approaching her cautiously as if she might attack. What are you really? Ji-Woo looked down at the blade in her hand. She deactivated it and set it carefully on the floor. I'm exactly what your passenger manifest says. An 18-year-old human going to university to study engineering. That's impossible, someone in the crowd said. You moved like a soldier. You fought like a killer. I am a soldier, Ji-Woo said quietly. Or I was. I finished my mandatory military service 3 months ago. 2 years in the Frontier Defense Corps. She looked around at the staring faces. On Earth, everyone serves. It's part of becoming an adult. Yuna stepped forward, retrieving Ji-Woo's school blazer. You did good, girl, the old woman said in human language. Very good. You knew, Captain Velmuth said to Yuna. You knew what she was. I suspected, Yuna admitted, switching back to Galactic Standard. I recognized the way she carries herself. I did 30 years in special operations myself. She smiled at the shocked faces around her. I'm 73 years old. Did you think humans stopped being dangerous when we got old? A Seraph passenger, the one who'd been mothering Ji-Woo earlier in the voyage, approached with tears in her large eyes. But you're so small, so young. How can your people send children to war? I'm not a child, Ji-Woo said gently. By human standards, I'm an adult. And Earth doesn't send us to war lightly. We're ready if we have to be. The ship's engineer, a middle-aged human man named Hyun, finally spoke up. He'd been quiet throughout the journey, keeping to himself. Now he stepped forward. Captain, perhaps we should talk in private, Hyun said. The crew needs to understand some things about humans. Things the galactic databases don't explain very well. Almoth nodded numbly. Yes, I think that would be wise.
Owie.
He turned to his crew. Get everyone back to their quarters. Run full diagnostics on the hull. Make sure those pirates didn't plant any surprises. As the crowd began to disperse, Ji-Woo felt the weight of their stares. Some looked at her with gratitude. Others with fear. A few with something like awe. She put her blazer back on, covering her scarred arms, trying to become the schoolgirl again. But it was too late for that. They'd seen what she really was. What humans really were, in the ship's conference room. An hour later, Captain Velmuth sat across from Yen and Ji-Woo. The captain's antenna drooped with exhaustion and stress. Explain, he said simply. Explain how this is possible. Hyun pulled up a holographic display of Earth. Our world doesn't look that dangerous from space, does it? Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. Beautiful. It's a death world, Velmuth said. We know this. High gravity, dangerous fauna, extreme weather. But many species come from challenging worlds. Earth is different, Haon said. The gravity is 1.3 times standard, Yes, but that's just the beginning. Our planet is covered in creatures that evolved to kill. Not just big predators, but tiny ones too. Diseases, parasites, venomous insects. For millions of years, everything on Earth was trying to eat our ancestors or poison them. So you evolved to be tough, Velmuth said. That explains the physical abilities. It explains some of it, Jiwoo said. But there's more. Humans are endurance hunters, Captain. We're not the strongest or the fastest. But we don't stop. Ever. Our ancestors would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. We evolved to keep going when everything else gives up. You nodded. Our pain tolerance is high because it had to be. Our reaction speed is fast because slow humans died. Our capacity for violence exists because peaceful humans got eaten. Captain Velmuth listened to Hyan's explanation with growing horror. He'd reviewed Earth's file when humans first joined the galactic community, but the official reports made them sound so peaceful. Friendly traders, eager to learn, happy to cooperate. The galactic databases describe humans as a peaceful species, Velmuth said slowly. You've been nothing but cooperative since joining the community. We are peaceful, Jiwoo said. We choose to be. But peaceful and harmless are not the same thing. Hyan brought up another display, this one showing human military history. In the 30 years since we joined the galactic community, Earth has been in 17 defensive wars. Pirate raids mostly, a few territorial disputes with aggressive neighbors. We've never started a conflict. You've never lost one either, Velmuth said, reading the data with his compound eyes. The casualty ratios are... He trailed off, clicking his mandibles in distress. Horrifying by galactic standards, Hyan finished. Yes, we know. But you have to understand, Captain. Those weren't armies fighting. Those were regular humans defending their homes. Farmers, teachers, engineers. People who'd done their mandatory service and gone back to civilian life. Like Jiwoo, Velmuth said. Jiwoo confirmed. I'm not special among humans, Captain. I'm actually small for my species. The real soldiers, the ones who volunteer to stay in service after the mandatory period, they're much more capable. Velmuth felt his limbs go weak. How many humans serve in your military? Active duty? About 40 million, Hyan said. But everyone between 18 and 20 serves 2 years minimum. That's roughly 800 million trained soldiers walking around as civilians at any given time. The number was staggering. Most galactic species had small professional militaries. The idea of nearly 1 billion trained soldiers just living normal lives, going to school, raising families, working regular jobs, was terrifying. Why? Velmuth asked. Why make everyone serve? Because Earth taught us that survival isn't guaranteed, Jiwoo said. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned that every member of the tribe needs to be able to fight if necessary. It's cultural now, woven into who we are. A proximity alarm interrupted their conversation. The ship's tactical officer, a young luminary named Kex, appeared on the communication screen. Captain, we have a problem, Kex said, his crystalline face reflecting worry. Long-range sensors show the pirate fleet is regrouping. They've called in reinforcements. 15 ships total, all heading our way. Velmuth felt his heart sink. How long until they reach us? 6 hours. Maybe less if they push their engines. Can we outrun them? No, sir. Their ships are faster, and we're still 3 days from the nearest military station. Velmuth slumped in his chair. His ship had minimal weapons, designed to discourage opportunistic pirates, not fight a fleet. His security force consisted of 12 lightly armed guards. Against 15 pirate ships, they had no chance. You're coming back because of me, Jiwoo said quietly. I humiliated Kroll. He can't let that stand. It's not your fault, Velmuth said, though part of him wanted to blame her. You saved lives. The crew and I should have protected everyone better. Captain Hyan said carefully. There might be another option. What option? We can't fight them. We can't run. Do you suggest we surrender? No, Hyan said. I suggest we let the humans on board defend the ship. Velmuth stared at him. You're 12 beings. 12 against 15 ships with hundreds of pirates. 13 if you count me, said a new voice. They turned to see Yuna standing in the doorway. The elderly human woman smiled. I'm old, but I can still shoot straight. And I know a few tricks that might help. This is insane, Velmuth said. You're civilians. Most of you are elderly or students, or humans, Yuna corrected, and we're from a Deathworld. Those pirates are about to learn what that really means. Jiwoo stood up. Captain, I need to ask you something. Will you let us try? We can't guarantee success, but we can guarantee we'll make them regret coming back. Velmuth looked between the three humans. Giwoo, who looked like a schoolgirl, but fought like a demon. Hyun, the quiet engineer who'd been hiding his military background. Yuna, the sweet old lady who'd just admitted to being a special operations veteran. What would you need? He asked. Access to the cargo bay, Jiwoo said. And full access to ship systems. We'll need to build some things. Build what? Weapons, Yuna said cheerfully. Defenses, surprises. We're going to turn your peaceful cruise liner to something those pirates will have nightmares about. That's impossible, Velmuth protested. You don't have time. You don't have materials. We're humans, Hyun interrupted. We once fought off alien predators with sharpened sticks. We built civilizations from stone and mud. We reached space using controlled explosions. Give us a cargo bay full of industrial equipment in 6 hours, and we'll give you a fighting chance. Velmuth made a decision that went against every instinct he had. Do it. I'll have the crew give you whatever you need. Within an hour, all 12 humans on board had gathered in the cargo bay. Giwoo and Yuna had found them all, and Hyun had explained the situation. Now they stood together. And Velmuth watched from the observation deck above. The humans ranged in age from 22 to 73. There was Tae, a cargo hauler with a friendly smile and arms like steel cables. Sujin, a paramedic with kind eyes and gentle hands. A retired teacher named Bong. A young chef named Min. An artist, a programmer, a maintenance worker. Regular people with regular jobs. But as they began to work, Velmuth saw something that chilled him to his core. They moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of shared training. They communicated in brief, efficient phrases. They assessed the cargo bay's resources with the eyes of soldiers looking at a battlefield. Tae immediately went to the mining equipment stored for the colony worlds. These plasma cutters can be modified, he said. Give me 2 hours, and I'll have shape charges that can punch through military-grade armor. Yuna was examining the ship's maintenance drones. These can be weaponized. Remove the safety protocols, add some explosives, turn them into guided missiles. Hyun was already at a terminal, his fingers flying across the controls. I can rig the cargo bay's magnetic launch system. It's designed to move containers, but with some modifications, we can use it as a railgun. Gu coordinated everything, her young face serious and focused. She'd found a marker and was sketching defensive positions on a portable board. Sujin, we'll need medical stations here and here. Min, you're our best shot. You'll take the forward position. Bong, you know chemistry? Work with Tae on the explosives. They worked with frightening efficiency. Velmuth watched as his cargo bay transformed into a war zone. The humans pulled apart equipment and rebuilt it into weapons. They constructed firing positions from shipping containers. They jury-rigged communication systems and targeting computers. A Seraph crew member named Lyra approached Velmuth on the observation deck. Captain, what are they doing down there? They're preparing to defend the ship, Velmuth said. But how? They're building weapons from cargo equipment. That's impossible. Apparently not for humans. For hours into their preparation, Velmuth went down to the cargo bay. What he saw defied belief. The humans had constructed a defensive network that looked like it belonged on a military vessel, not a cruise liner. He called out, "Can I speak with you?" The young woman climbed down from where she'd been installing what looked like a targeting sensor. "Yes, Captain. What you're building here, it seems excessive. We're trying to defend, not destroy." Kiwoo looked at him with those dark, calm eyes. "Captain, those pirates are coming to kill everyone on this ship. They won't show mercy. They won't take prisoners this time. So we're going to hit them so hard, they run away crying? But surely there are galactic laws about proportional response. This is proportional, Jiwoo said. If we were being excessive, we'd board their ships and take the fight to them. This is just discouragement. Velmuth realized she was serious. You really believe you can win? We're humans, Jiwoo said simply. We don't know how to quit. The pirate fleet arrived exactly when sensors predicted. 15 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Surrounding the Harmony's dreamlike predators circling wounded prey, their hulls were scarred and painted with symbols meant to inspire fear. On the bridge of the lead ship, Kroll sat in his command chair with his leg in a medical brace and one arm in a sling. His eyes burned with fury. Open communication with that civilian ship, he growled. The face of Captain Velmuth appeared on the screen. The Quilarian looked terrified, exactly as Kroll expected. This is your only warning, Kroll said. Surrender the human girl who attacked me. Surrender her now, and I'll only take half your passengers for ransom. Refuse, and I'll kill everyone aboard and sell the ship for scrap. Velmuth's antenna twitched nervously. I cannot do that. Then you've chosen death, Kroll snarled. He cut the communication and turned to his fleet commanders. All ships, weapons hot, target their engines first. I want them crippled, but intact. We'll board and I'll kill that human girl slowly, while everyone watches. His second-in-command, Dax, shifted uncomfortably. Sir, perhaps we should reconsider. That human was extremely dangerous. She got lucky. Cruel roared. And she was one small female. What can she possibly do against our entire fleet? Dax had no answer to that. The fleet moved into attack formation in the cargo bay of the Harmony's Dream. Hugh watched the tactical display. 12 humans stood ready at their positions, calm and focused. She activated the communication system. All positions, this is Jiwoo. Pirates are moving into attack formation. Prepare to engage on my mark. She switched to the ship-wide channel. Captain Velmuth, please move all passengers to the interior compartments. This is going to get loud. Velmuth's voice came back, shaking slightly. They're moving now. Jiwoo, are you sure about this? No, Jiwoo admitted, but we're doing it anyway. That's the human way. The pirate ships advanced slowly, their weapons charging with visible energy buildup. They expected an easy victory, a chance to terrorize helpless civilians. They were wrong. Now Jiwoo said calmly. The cargo bay doors opened, explosive bolts blowing them away in a cloud of debris. The modified magnetic launcher activated with a sound like thunder. Shipping containers, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, shot out like bullets from a gun. The pirates had no time to react. The first container smashed into a pirate corvette's bridge. Punching through shields designed to stop energy weapons but useless against solid projectiles moving that fast. The ship spun out of control, atmosphere venting from the massive hole. Before they could respond, the weaponized maintenance drones launched. 50 of them, each one packed with explosives and guided by sensors that locked onto the pirate ship's engine signatures. Evasive maneuvers. Someone on the pirate fleet shouted, but it was too late. The drones swarmed like angry bees. Some were shot down by point defense, but there were too many. They crashed into engine ports, sensor arrays, and weapon emplacements. The explosions lit up space like fireworks. 3 more pirate ships took critical damage. One lost all power. Another's fuel lines ruptured, forcing an emergency shutdown before it exploded. What is happening? Kroll screamed. They're a civilian ship. Where are these weapons coming from? Dax was frantically checking his sensors. Sir, they've weaponized their cargo equipment. Those containers are being launched by magnetic acceleration. The drones are standard maintenance units with explosives attached. It's impossible. No civilian crew could do this. It's not the crew, Dax said, his voice filled with dawning horror. It's the humans. The pirate fleet tried to return fire, but the humans had prepared for that too. Tase-shaped charges detonated at precise intervals, creating clouds of shrapnel that scattered the incoming energy blasts. It wouldn't work forever, but it bought them precious seconds. Second wave, Giwu ordered. Yuna activated her surprise. She'd reprogrammed the ship's escape pods, filling them with volatile mining chemicals and setting them to home in on pirate signatures. They launched in all directions, and when the pirates tried to shoot them down, they exploded in massive chemical fireballs that blinded sensors and scattered. Burning fuel across space, the pirate formation broke apart in chaos. Ships collided, trying to avoid the unexpected attacks. Communication channels filled with confused shouting. "Concentrate fire on their cargo bay," Kroll ordered. "Destroy whatever they're launching from." The remaining functional pirate ships turned their weapons toward the Harmony's Dream. Energy beams lanced through space, slamming into the cruise liner's shields. On the Harmony's Dream, alarms screamed as shields took damage. Velmuth watched his displays with horror. Giwu's shields at 60% and falling. "Acknowledged," Giwu said calmly. "Hyun, give them something to think about." Hyun activated his railgun. He'd modified the cargo launcher even further, turning it into a proper weapon. He loaded a solid tungsten rod, 1 meter long and impossibly dense, and fired. The rod crossed the distance to the nearest pirate ship in less than a second. It hit the ship's center of mass with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The pirate ship simply came apart, ripped into pieces by kinetic energy. The pirate fleet finally understood what they were facing. These weren't civilians defending themselves. These were humans doing what humans did best, turning everything into a weapon and fighting with terrifying efficiency. Dax shouted, overriding Kroll's protests. "All ships scatter and jump to faster than light. Now." The surviving pirate ships broke away, their engines burning at maximum as they fled. Some barely made it to safe jump distance before their damaged systems gave out. Others jumped with hulls breached and fires burning, desperate to escape. Kroll's ship was among the last to flee. The massive pirate leader stared at the screen showing the Harmony's Dream. That small cruise liner that had somehow destroyed his fleet. "This isn't over," he swore. "I'll hunt that human to the end of the galaxy." But Dax was already calculating jump coordinates as far from human space as possible. He'd learned his lesson. Some prey wasn't worth hunting. In the cargo bay, the humans stood down their weapons. The battle had lasted 11 minutes. 4 pirate ships destroyed. 6 more crippled and limping away. The rest fled in disorder. Gu pulled off her targeting headset and let out a long breath. "Damage report." "Minor hull damage," Huion called out. "Shields held. No casualties." The other humans cheered, the sound echoing through the bay. They hugged each other, laughed, and collapsed against their makeshift fortifications. The tension of the last 6 hours finally broke. Captain Velmuth entered the cargo bay, walking slowly through the organized chaos. He looked at the weapons the humans had built, the defensive positions they'd constructed, the victory they'd achieved. "How?" he asked simply. Yuna laughed, her old face creased with joy. "We're humans, Captain. We're from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill us. We learned to fight back." "But you're civilians," Velmuth protested weakly. "Regular people?" "There's no such thing as a regular human," Tay said, grinning. "We're all dangerous. We just choose not to be most of the time." The celebration was interrupted by an urgent message on the Galactic News Network. Someone on the pirate fleet had recorded the battle and transmitted it before fleeing. The footage was already spreading across thousands of worlds. It showed the small cruise liner facing overwhelming odds. It showed the impossible weapons launching from the cargo bay. It showed pirate ships feared across the sector, breaking and running from a civilian vessel. And in the corner of every frame, coordinating the defense with calm precision, was Jiwoo, the schoolgirl in the uniform, who'd turned out to be something else entirely. The headline spreading across the galaxy was simple: "Human civilians destroy pirate fleet. What are we sharing space with?" 3 weeks later, Jiwoo arrived at Central Hub University. The footage had made her famous, whether she wanted it or not. Security guards watched her nervously as she walked through the station. Other beings stepped aside to let her pass, their various eyes filled with fear and respect. She found her assigned dormitory and knocked on the door. It opened to reveal a young Quillarian antenna, quivering with nervousness. "You're my roommate," the Quillian asked. "You're the human from the news." "My name is Jiwoo," she said gently. And yes, that was me. The Quillarian introduced herself as Lix. She stared at Jiwoo with all her compound eyes. "Is it true? Are humans really that dangerous?" Jiwoo set down her bags and thought about the question. She thought about Earth, that beautiful, deadly world. She thought about her training, the things she'd learned to do. She thought about the 12 humans who defended the ship, regular people who became warriors when needed. "Only when we have to be," she said finally. "Mostly, we just want to learn, make friends, and live peaceful lives. Just like you." Lix nodded slowly, some of her tension easing. "But if someone threatens your friends?" Jiwoo smiled. It was warm and genuine, reaching her eyes. But there was steel underneath, always would be. "Then we remind them why peaceful humans are a privilege, not a right." She began unpacking, hanging her school uniforms in the closet next to the frame, holding her military commendations. A normal student preparing for university, a trained soldier carrying humanity's reputation. Both things at once, because that was what being human meant. Outside the window, Central Hub Station glittered with lights from 1,000 species, all living together in the galactic community. Somewhere out there, the pirate fleet was licking its wounds and spreading the story. Somewhere, other species were watching the footage and reassessing everything they thought they knew about humans. And in the dormitory, a schoolgirl sat down with her new alien roommate to discuss class schedules and study groups, ready to be exactly what she'd always wanted to be, just another student trying to make her way in the universe. But now everyone knew the truth. Humans were Deathworld predators who'd chosen civilization. And that choice, that restraint, was what made them truly terrifying.